I am so excited for this Warrior Community interview with my girl Roxy because it's so great to see your beautiful face. We talk on the phone all the time, but it's just always a treat for me, a gift to me to be able to see you and have a conversation with you because wow, what a treasure you are to our world. So welcome.
Oh, Cynthia, me too. Honestly, I'm like, ugh, I just get to hang out with my girl and have a little face to face, which is the most exciting and fulfilling feeling for me too. And I can't wait to be there with you so soon. But I'm really excited to be with you here and to speak to your epic community of warriors today.
Thank you. And we are definitely like-minded in so many ways. And one of the ways is that you have Queendom Warriors for your community, and we just are all about that warrior lifestyle. And I mean, I don't have notes prepared because we don't seem to ever need notes, and we go where our intuition and our heart takes us. And so I'm going to start there,
Yeah,
which is the word warrior.
yeah,
Of course, our theme this month is self-love and self-confidence. And the reason why I asked you to be our guest is because I know that you know the impact you have on others, but I always try to remind you that you really have an impact on people. And just even like a little sentence that you will say will create a confidence in them that they never knew they had. And that is, I know this to be true for my daughter, especially because just when I didn't think she was paying attention, she'll say, oh, well, Roxy said blah, 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 remember. And that makes me feel confident. Like or she'll light up when I say, oh, I talked to Roxy today. She'll just light up and she'll be like, oh, how is she? What did she say? This and that.
yeah.
So you just have such an impact on people's confidence. And so you are the perfect guest for self-love, self-confidence month, which we wanted to focus on because, Valentine's Day is great. Of course, we should show love for our partners and boyfriends, husbands, companions.
Yeah,
We should, but I'm in the opinion that we should show the every day.
yeah,
Nothing wrong with celebrating Valentine's Day, but why not also make it about ourselves and loving ourselves, right?
yeah,
So
yeah,
let's start with the word warrior
yeah.
and talk about what warrior means to you and why you chose to use that for your queendom warriors. That word.
Yeah, well, thank you for everything that you just shared. There's so much to tease out, but I'm happy to drop into the word warrior. Warrior is really a way of life to me, right? It's an identity. It's a character that encompasses integrity, self-respect, self-worth, discipline. All of it, like courage, grit, right? And my entire life. This is a character, an identity that has been infused in me very innately. But then, as I would go through my life and continue to do so, it's just who I am. It's me, really, like just living in this character, right? And so, when I think of the word warrior, I'm also thinking about a real, autonomous and authentic frequency, right? Uh, to really, and this is all my opinion, to express yourself, your authentic self in your life, like to live from your truth, is to me the path to creating fulfillment. And I'm not saying it's easy. I think there's more people who shy away from their authentic self or don't even have the volume turned up on it because the volume from the external is so much higher that they don't know how to hear their authentic self. So I love when you talk about like heart and intuition because that when you can tune into heart and intuition, you're going to operate from your most authentic self, right? Because it's all connected. And to be a true warrior in life, you have to be operating from your truest and highest self, so in my community, the women that I coach and mentor and support, that is the ultimate focus. It's encouraging their most authentic self to be creating this life of fulfillment for themselves. I mean, when you think about like self-confidence, well, and I'll go deep. So I'm going to break this up for us, in more bite-sized pieces. But the precursor to self-confidence is self-love. You can't really get into a state of confidence self-confidence if you don't have ownership of yourself. That self-ownership comes from self-love. And when you feel that ownership of self, you're going to fight for yourself in all the ways that, there's a million ways that you fight for yourself in life. Just one example to paint a kind of picture is like when the alarm goes up, don't off when the alarm goes off and you don't feel like getting up, but you get up and you get your ass to the gym and you do your thing because you know that it's what you need to feel your best, to perform your best in life. You're fighting against that alarm. You're fighting for yourself. So there's so many examples. But when you are putting yourself in this position to fight for yourself, to what I say, seek the fight, to face the battle, this is where the confidence piece is being built. So that's why it's so important, and I know we'll dive deeper into this, but because I think so many people are like hungry for how do I be more confident? It's like, well, back up. How much are you loving yourself? So I'll stop right there, and then
Yeah, that's all exactly what I was thinking. So warrior, you're fighting for yourself, you're fighting for your authentic self. You're at war with maybe that external noise. Is that what you're thinking maybe? Like that, and so you're at war for yourself against the external noise,
I would
right?
say, yeah, I would say external and internal, because a lot of times there's this inner critic that you have to shut up. you have to transmute. You have to, and both are very loud. But and this is why it's like I always say, there's no period at the end of the sentence when we think of self love or any of this stuff that we're talking about. It's a life game. Self mastery is a life game. And you have to be willing to constantly be putting in investing, and I'm putting so much emphasis on that word. You have to invest constant energy to fortify your self-love, to fortify, that volume of your authentic self, your intuition, so that you can lead yourself from that. But it is the case of going to war with, the external voice, the internal voice, and then of course, the challenges that are going to come up, along the way in life. Like when you are someone who's living your most authentic self, you're a path creator. You opt into you and what you feel. It's your core needs, your core values, your core beliefs, the core tenets that make you, your boundaries, what your core desires. Like, what do you truly want for your life? Like, you're not following it. I actually call it the scenic route, right? Because it's like the scenic route, like your beautiful background, it's like a jungle and it's so beautiful, but there's no roadmap, like versus like the highway, the freeway. Go here, exit here. It's really easy just to listen. But the scenic route, you have to decide, go here, go there. And it's a jungle and you don't know what's going to jump out at you. You don't know if there's a cliff right there. I'm, painting a picture here because I'm an artist, but like, you don't know. But in that not knowing, guess what? You get to discover yourself. And the more you discover who you are, especially in the face of battles, the more that you can own who you are and love who you are and then lead yourself from that energy. And that's, to me, where everything changes in life.
I really couldn't agree more. And I think a lot of people are on that highway, especially through their 20s,
Yeah.
and they don't tend to realize that they can get off until their late 30s, is my experience. Mid to late 30s, they all of a sudden realize, who put me on this highway? Was it my parents' expectations? Was it my, college professors' expectations that I get a certain job? Like, who put me on this highway? And so I really made the discovery myself, I think, like my right around age 30, right when early 30s, I would say, like 32, definitely by 32, 33, I realized, just had an epiphany. I read some books by the Dalai Lama and Wayne Dyer, who is amazing. And I think he wrote a book called There's a Spiritual Solution to Every Problem. And I could literally open up any page of that book and find inspiration.
I love that.
So he was like one of my favorite celebrities ever. And I'll tell you, fast forward, I ended up moving to Maui, and his daughter called me to deliver a cake to him
Oh,
for our bakery. And I lost my husband still laughs at me because I lost my shit.
that is so funny. I didn't know that.
I lived in LA. I've met all the celebrities. They didn't impress me. I'm not that kind of girl. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Leonardo DiCaprio, my friend dated him. I saw him all the time. Like, you
Yeah.
know,
Who
and,
cares?
and I was like, yeah, whatever, whatever. Like, who are you as a person? That was more me. Oh my God. When I met Wayne Dyer, I couldn't speak. I was like, he wrote like my name twice in the book because I said it twice because I didn't, it was a mess. It was a total mess. He first of all gave me a big sweaty hug because he had just been out running. I mean, he was exactly who you think he would be plus more. So I ended up getting to go to his apartment or condo right on the beachfront several times to deliver baked goods before he passed away. Because he was gluten free and our bakery was gluten free. So, and we don't have it anymore. But yeah, so that's kind of a tangent story.
No,
But
I love it though.
his book changed my life
Yeah.
because that was the first time someone said to me, in his words, that it was up to me to make the decision. Like I was on that highway. I was like, no, I'm supposed to go to college. I'm supposed to get a job in business, not art, even though I majored in art. Like my parents did say to me, like my dad said, I don't know what you're going to do with an art degree, you
Yeah.
know, because he's not his fault. He's just
No, he just
old fashioned thinking. Um, and so like I was on that highway and metabolically, like I drank wine, started drinking wine at the end of my 20s with dinner because that's what late 20s something year olds did. They, you know, had wine with their dinner. And that sent me down not a great road of, I mean, I didn't drink a lot of it or anything like that. It wasn't an alcohol problem, but it was a metabolic problem. It
yeah.
caused all kinds of yeast in my gut and stuff, like just not good.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I guess I read that book and I thought, what do you mean it's up to me? And about that same time, someone said to me, you know, Cynthia, you only are treated by people you only let people treat you how you allow them to treat you, right? It was something like that.
Yeah.
They only treat you how you allow them to treat you. And again, there was someone telling me that I was in charge of this, that I wasn't just along for the ride.
Yeah.
And so that's when I started carving my own path, and I started choosing people around me
Mm-hmm.
that were supportive of me choosing my own path. Like, if that makes sense. Before that, I
Totally.
did not choose those type of people. I chose things like potential, like in a partner.
Yeah.
Oh, well, they're not supportive of me, but they have the potential to be blah blah blah.
Yeah.
Like it just was all the wrong formula.
Yeah.
But I noticed that I'm not the only one, right? So, right. So you have all of these external forces. And recently, I have there's a young gal who wants to study under me and learn what I do, and she just graduated with a marketing degree. She was a professional golfer. She decided she doesn't want to be a professional golfer anymore. She wants to learn this line of business, but she said, well, I have to get a job in marketing first so I can learn my passion next. And I was like, what?
Interesting.
No.
Yeah.
Why? And she's like, well, I think my parents would expect me to get a job in marketing because that's what my degree is in. And I was like, I'm gonna let you in on a little secret. Don't waste your time.
Yeah.
Just go straight for the passion. And if your marketing degree comes in handy towards that,
Yeah.
awesome. But you need to be doing this for yourself. And you're going to waste a lot of time if you're not doing it for yourself and you're doing it for someone else. So, like, go straight to the passion. So, yeah. So, I guess my next question for you along those lines would be, when you have I think teenagers are a great example too.
Yeah.
But when you have external forces telling you what you should be,
Yeah.
and you're used to listening to them,
Yeah.
or in the case of teenagers, they have self-confidence problems because they don't know who they are,
Right.
and they're searching for something to make them stand out from the other person or not stand out, like depending on which direction they're going. They either want to hide or they want to stand out in a rebellious way. This is notorious for teenagers. I think it's a hormone thing. But like, what, I guess my question is, what types of things can you do
Yeah.
to, one, figure out who you are, because I think that's where people go astray, is they put so much pressure on who am I supposed to be,
Mm-hmm.
and I have to make this decision. In, a college major is one of these types of things. Like, you have to choose one thing to major in,
Yeah.
but maybe you're not one thing. So
You're
I
definitely
hear
not
people
one
say all
thing.
the time, like, you're so lucky you figured out who you are and what you want, because I don't know who I am and I don't know what I want.
Yeah.
And I was like, listen, stop putting all this pressure on yourself, because it's not one thing. It's a lot of different things, and you just got to go down one of these little paths through the jungle bushes, right,
Yeah.
as you would say with your metaphor.
Yeah.
And you know what? If that one ends up in a cliff, then you turn around and you go the other way.
Yeah.
Like, you don't have to commit to one path, and then, because what happens is then you're just standing there still and you're not going anywhere.
Yeah.
So can you, like, kind of break that down with, do you have tips for people to figure out, again, it wasn't easy for me, but I do know that I'm not label. I'm not a label. I'm
Yeah.
not anything. I'm not just an artist. I'm not just an athlete. I'm
Yeah.
not just a mom. I am the encompassment of all of these things together and how that flows through life.
Yeah.
So, so when one tool I use is my intuition, and we can talk more about that
Mhm.
after. I want to talk about a book with that, but along those lines, like, what are tools, like, if you're sitting there and you're like, what am I and who am I? How do you help your people find that answer?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. So one thing that I want to point out, and I'm going to kind of backtrack and pull on some things that you said, and of course answer, is let's just remove the just and let's replace it with and. I'm not just a mother. I'm being you for a moment. I'm not an actual mom, but I'm not just a mother and just an athlete and just an artist. I'm a mother and an artist and an athlete and a goddess and a warrior and a queen and whatever. Do you know what I mean? So replace just with and. And I want to just go ahead and say, I don't believe any one person in this world is meant to be one thing. We're life. We are nature. There's no separation between us. Okay. And I think the more you live and the deeper you get into yourself, you understand this integration piece here. And when you understand that, when you look around you, what is life doing? It's just always evolving, evolving. So what makes you different? Are you supposed to just like be some stagnant, like, non-moving, this is my one thing? No, you're not. I spent, almost 2 decades of my life as a celebrity makeup artist. Prior to that, or in like the very beginning stages, I threw parties for a living. When I lived in Hawaii, like I threw parties for a living. I was into PR. I am an artist first and forevermost, right? I've been writing my whole life, um, but always really just creative and exploring. And now I'm in this position where essentially I just get up and I just live who I am, and that's what I share in the world, and that's my entire business. But that's a great segue. I live who I am. Well, I know who I am. And I love that this is, where we are right now, because, I have this roadmap to self-mastery is what I call the 5S formula, right? And by no means am I trying to just simplify this whole thing to just be this, but these pillars that I'm going to break down for you, I have discovered to be the most important frequencies, attributes, whatever you want to call them, because they're both, to be investing in your life. And it's sequential in this order. So it's self-awareness is the anchor. Next is self-connection. And that's what I'm going to tap into to give you your answer of the hows. Self-connection is the precursor to self-love. Self-love is the precursor to self-confidence. And self-confidence is the precursor to self-trust, which is like I call it like the crown jewel, right? So the piece, the S, the self connection piece is so important, because this is where the authentic self lives. So again, I'm going to repeat it. So your core values, your core beliefs, your core leading attributes, your core passions, desires, your boundaries, like all of that stuff is in self-connection, authentic self, right? How do you get to know, love, and trust anybody, any individual? How does one do that? You have to spend real time with them. You have to invest and exchange with the individual. That's how it happens. Where people, it's interesting. People think for the most part, this is just my, view of like witnessing human behavior, also being a coach, uh, that just because you're in your body, you have a connection to yourself. No, you do not. No, you do not. You have to actually go out of your way to spend real time with yourself, and that means some solitude. So in my journey, in my life, I have been writing the majority of my life. I have almost 3 decades of writing in my possession. And it's not just writing, like my journal. So this is going into the tactic part, like the strategies. It's my evolution. It's tangible, proof of my becoming. It's me just constantly going inward. And in my writing, it's a lot of, it's philosophizing with life, with myself, but it's ultimately, I call it my favorite room. It's the portal to my heart, to my mind, to my most authentic self. And so I would encourage your community to, if they aren't already, to start investing in this practice. How I frame it is more of a ritual, but either way, of journaling. And I'm sure it's not, some new concept to a lot of your community members, but it is the MVP in my life. It's this space that doesn't judge you, that doesn't, it's not this like you have to drop thousands of dollars to spend time for this space to listen to you. You can literally unleash anything and everything that you're holding inside. We are constantly, full of emotions, full of thoughts, full of stories, full of processings. Like, we don't need to carry that all inside of us. And in fact, I say that when you put it out in a journal, you're able to really understand more about yourself, because you're witnessing how you're facing something, how you're feeling about something, what you're visualizing. It's journaling is everything. I mean, meditation is also a big part of my ritualistic ways of self-connection. And I feel like the younger you can start that, the better. I feel that it's probably easier for, just thinking about like age groups here, for the younger, to pick up a journal and to just start. It's like, I call it streamline of consciousness. You don't need to be Marcus Aurelius. You don't need to be some like profound poet. You don't have to, you literally just start with one word, one emotion, and just let yourself go. And I say that because I know after talking to so many people about journaling, that it can feel very daunting to just open the book, and then it's like, what do I do? Where do I go? But it's like,
Can I stop you there for 1 second?
yeah.
I love that. And, like that is the best way to get to know yourself, because for someone who has journaled before or even written notes before
Yeah.
on something, and then they go back and they look at that at a later date, whether it's 5 days later or 5 years later,
Yeah.
and you think, wow, was I really like that? Or wow, did I really think that? Because we file, the non-essential memories away where we don't need them. And so that, I think that you're right, that is a really great way to get to know yourself, because you might not even realize that about yourself, that you were feeling that way or thinking that or whatever. And one of the the things that I give my clients is a prompt to do a gratitude log. They can recite the gratitude log at night, but the one that they do in the morning, they have to write it down, and that is to write down what happened to you that you're grateful for before it happened. So I say rotate. It can be something very small or very big. So it can be, one, I had a great weight training session today. I had a PR, or maybe I just got through my weight training session today. It could be even that simple. Or maybe it's got to spend time with my family today. I mean, it could be anything that simple, all the way to, I've been a Dwayne Johnson fan in my life. Like, oh, Dwayne Johnson asked me to be in his next movie. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it could be that big. And you write down, I'm thankful that The Rock asked me to be in his next movie, right? Like something like that.
No, I love
So
it.
like then that's very simple and it's not that daunting. It's something, and it's putting you in that place um, where this is important too. I wanted to get to this, and I want to hear the rest of them. Sorry I
No,
interrupted, but
no, no.
I do agree that sometimes meditation is hard, especially for the younger generation,
Right,
but because there's just so much noise and then they don't know how to do it and all
right,
this
right,
stuff.
right. Exactly.
And really, the bottom line is you don't have to know how to do it, but we can get to that.
Right.
But it just led me to the thought that when you write what happened to you before it happened and it's good, you're putting yourself in the position of receiving the energy of that actually happening, which I
Absolutely.
love the thought of. And this was going to be one of my prompts to my community this week, is to think about who you want to be and where you want to be. Like, say you want to be on a yacht in, the south of France or something like that. Like, maybe that's your dream. I don't know. Like,
Yeah.
say you want to be there. Sorry, there's a plane going over overhead. You want to be at a yacht in the south of France and you're dressed in Gucci or something like that. I don't know. Like, if that's your
Whatever
Coolio,
your
that's your
thing is.
thing, right? So say that's what you want. To actually, think about that and put yourself in that space and pretend that that is actually happening to you right now. And you actually can get that energy from that, and it makes it more likely to happen. I know that's a little woo woo,
Well,
but
that's actually
it works.
neuroscience. It's
It works.
neuroscience because we know
Yeah.
that the brain. So it's essentially future pacing. You can call it future. In my journal, it's future pacing. I love that we're here. This is very important, and it's something that I'm always, supporting the women in my community with. So, future pacing is literally writing the story. Here's the key point, and this is putting like echoing what you just said. Don't think of, think from. You don't think of, you think from that place. You see, when you're thinking from it, you're going to evoke a different sensorial experience. Your body doesn't know the difference of when you're actually on the boat in the Gucci or if you're sitting there in your apartment, like thinking of it. But what is going to tell your body, and again, this is neuroscience and it's fact, that you're giving this is an energy and a frequency, and you have to get so deep in the details of it. And that is what you're saying, Cynthia, is that is what's going to bring you closer to the actual experience such that you can actualize it. And I know in my own life, call it woo, I hate those labels. I call it real life, because in my life the things that I have manifested are people will call it miracles, and I just say, well, no, it's the power of understanding, like, that you are a conduit of energy, and when you channel that energy accurately and with consistency, like you're backing it up consistently, you don't give life a choice, because that's what everything here was, an idea first. Somebody relentlessly believed in it. Somebody had the vision and was just so living in that vision that it came to life, right? So there's nothing different, whether it was the iPhone or you being on a yacht in Gucci, it's the same thing. But we're so.
I think most recently, it's like Elon Musk. I heard him on, I think it was Lex Friedman had him on as a guest. I listened to part of it, and he said, Lex Friedman asked him, like, well, what do you think about, like, do people ask you, like, how far will you take it for your vision to put people on Mars?
Yeah.
And he was like, well, it's never really occurred to me to ever quit that vision. Like, it's just not occurred to me. Like, I will accomplish it. Like, and I think that's that same thing is, like, it's impossible to put someone on Mars. And he said, like, right now with the cost of things, it would take over $1 trillion. So it's just not possible. But what we're going to keep doing is working on what types of alloys we can create that are cheaper to get us there, and how we can get to the moon first to have a base to get to Mars from there. Like, he has totally broken it down, and he's living in that vision every day to get people on Mars. And I think that is what it reminds me of, because
Yeah.
you could sit here all day and say there's no way we can put people on Mars, but he is sitting there saying, I'm not giving up until I put someone on Mars.
I love
So,
it because
right?
you said it, he's living in the vision. You know, as a badass, world class, world champion athlete, this is what we're talking about here is no original story. Like, how many athletes visualize their hands raised? How many athletes visualize the gold around them? It's not hocus pocus like I mean, I have nothing. I love magic. We can call it magic, but I think it's important to really,
Yeah, let's call it magic.
yeah, I love it. I'm like, I'm a witch. But I mean, I think it's important to really just put emphasis on, like, well, the science in it actually, and that it's actually backed. Do the research, look it up. It's all there. And at the end of the day, it comes to, this is another important thing that I'm going to pull on that you said. You know, when I talk about vision a lot, I'm a woman of vision. And the interesting thing for me, Cynthia, is of course I have these visuals and these ideas of certain achievements that I am on the path to achieve in my life: podcast, homes, this, that, the things. Okay. My books. I don't focus on those. That's not what I'm chasing when I get up every day. I'm chasing the woman who has all of that done, accomplished, lived. I chase her. But this goes back to where we were about self connection. I've created an just unbreakable relationship with my future self. Like, I see her. She's not foreign to me. She has all the attributes. She has all the I'm her. It's just the expanded version of who I am. And I know every single day I get the opportunity to live my way into her. And there's all kinds of things. Like, I'll give you one example. When a challenge comes at me and it really, like, triggers I have like this harmony alarm. Like, now, like, harmony, I'm not in a state of harmony. Like, I'm being pressured. There's stress there. And immediately I go into her. I'm like, who is she in this moment? Because I know who she is in this moment. She's a stoic, composed, just, capable woman. And so I live through her in those moments, right? And that's just one example. But the whole thing that I'm trying
Like,
to say,
is that what you would say is maybe like your superhero self?
I mean, sure. I mean, to me, yeah, she's the infinite, she's a goddess, she's a mystic, she's a champion, she's a maverick, she's an underdog, she's an artist, these are all the archetypes actually in my memoir. Never said that before out loud. It's awesome. But she's everything that I know I am here to be and become. And that's the important takeaway here is, don't it's one thing to know who you are, and that is everything. I just put up a post today relaying that message. Like, everything that I do is the result about in what I believe about myself now, and also who I'm becoming. You have to know who you are, but you equally need to know who you're becoming. And I think that's the part that a lot of people don't really think about. It's like, who are you becoming? The job doesn't make you you. The home doesn't make you you. The money doesn't make you you. The relationship doesn't make you you. You make those things. Focus on that being, and then watch what happens. Watch all those things come in. So, and what I love about that focus too, especially, is that you're creating the ultimate relationship with your ultimate self, period, throughout your life. And in my opinion, you could have the best partner in the world, the ultimate family, but the relationship that matters the most is your relationship with yourself, because actually that relationship is going to affect all of your external relationships. So when you get into this place where you are respecting yourself, where you love and you own yourself, where you trust yourself, where you believe in yourself, well, that's also going to affect all of your relationships. And I mean, even going back to what you were saying when you said, when you started to when it clicked for you that you actually had authority in your life to decide how you wanted to go about creating your life, and then you were only allowing yourself to have relationships with people who supported that. Well, that stemmed from your self-worth. You weren't willing to step down from that worth because you were so clear on that worth of that self-worth, right? So again, it's like if we could just start to understand the importance of knowing who you are and embracing and owning that ness of you, but equally of importance, start to create a vision and a connection with who it is that you're becoming and chase those attributes, chase that character every day, and then watch what happens in your life. Magic.
Okay, so the magic, let's talk about the magic for a second, because I love what you said about it being science, and I totally, of course, believe that too. And I think it's really cool. We're both fans of Andrew Huberman. And I think he's doing important work with bridging that gap between things that have previously been thought as pseudoscientific from the scientific community and explaining the neurotransmitter response to that, or the neurological reasons of why. And let's face it, let's talk about magic, because we, as far as I know, we are like what, 98% dark matter, and it's called dark matter because nobody knows what it is. And so, how can we ever, with confidence and ego, as a human being, say we know everything about everything? Like, I think that's where scientists sometimes go wrong. If you have a scientist that's saying it's definitely this way without a doubt, no questions asked, it's not
Right.
science. And it is not the truth, because the truth is we don't know what's actually happening in our brain
Mhm.
totally. We are discovering things all the time. We have no idea what all the microbacteria are in us or what they
Right.
do. Like, we don't know. And so I think that's why I research so much and I find all of this information is fascinating, because um, this, like, the magic happens because I think we also, there's that one neurotransmitter thing, not neurotransmitter, but neurological thing where they tell you, right, your brain brain makes a decision. I think you've probably heard this. Your brain makes a decision of what's going to happen before you actually
Mhm.
do it. Right? Have you
Uh-huh.
heard that? Like, you
Yeah.
actually will predetermine the outcome of
Yes.
something
Yeah.
before it
Yeah.
happens, which is crazy to think about, that it's already predetermined. It, with these infinite possibilities and all this. I mean, we can really get into like the quantum side of
Right.
it, which is, again, like, nobody, people are stuck in their highway with
Yeah.
their earmuffs
Yeah.
on. They're in tunnel vision. They're just from birth to death, one road. You know, why do I have chronic disease? It's just the way it
Right.
is. That's what happens when you get old. And I'm like, no, no,
No.
no. Like, it can be so much more, and how much more we don't even know, because we don't know how much we can tap into in our brain. I mean, just the fact that what we see is actually just all
Mhm.
molecules, and it's the way our brain perceives it that makes it what
Yeah.
it is totally
Yeah.
profound. And how can we use our brain to adjust the outcome of what we're
Yeah.
seeing? And again, this is probably deeper than, it's not my usual podcast, cut and dry, it's
Oh
this or
yeah.
this metabolic
This is our
health stuff.
usual talk.
But yeah, this is important, because this is how you become your superhero
Exactly.
warrior self, is that you envision that superhero self, and you don't think of impossible. Like, you think of all things possible, and you try to get to that goal of whatever is possible. And I think when you start to put limitations on yourself, like, I can only do this or I can't do that, whatever it may
Yeah.
be, then you're the only one putting that limit on yourself. And it took me, again, a while to figure that out, but now I don't, well, attempt not, I still do it sometimes, I'll revert back sometimes into these limits. Um, but then I think, oh, wait, who's putting that limit on me? Is it me? Or is it actually this other person who I've let tell me that there's a limit? Like, where are you getting your information from, right? I think that's really important. Where are you getting your information from? Are you getting your information, if you're young, if you're a young person, are you getting it from your parents? Are you getting it from your coaches? If you're an athlete, are you getting it from, like, where are you getting it from, and what limitations have they put
No.
on you? Like, don't allow those limitations. That's kind of often a
No, it's
tangent,
a
but
good one though.
every once in a while, this is the most out there thought I'll have. Every once in a while, I think when there's so many coincidences and there's so many frequencies that are tuned in, sometimes I think, did I create this whole world in my brain? Because oh, how did I make all these coincidences keep happening? And then how can I create a better world then? Like, where can I go where I have all of the things that I want to be lined up? Like, if I'm already creating this world in my brain, like, I made my kids, I made my husband, like even the good and the bad, all
Yeah.
of it. If I created this world in my brain, um, how can I create something that's more in line with what I think will make me
Yeah.
happy? And maybe it will, or maybe it won't. Because right, maybe maybe you get to be the girl on the yacht in the south of France in the Gucci, and then you get there and you realize, you know what? I actually want to be the girl on the
Yeah.
farm, digging my hands in the
Yeah.
dirt, and then that's okay
Yeah.
too. Like so, again, I'm just going off on
No, but it's
tangents, but I
good.
hope
You
you're
need that
following me.
contrast
And
sometimes.
where is this magic coming from? And I think that there is a scientific basis, and the fact that we don't know 98% of what we're made
Yeah.
of is a pretty profound in saying that you cannot say for sure one thing is one thing and another thing is another thing.
No, I love it. And what we do know is that everything is energy. I mean, and even if you just were to focus on that simple fact that everything is energy, um, you know, it's interesting. It's like, look, I love what you say. Like, if I can create this, maybe I can create something that's even more aligned with something else that I think would make me happy, or other things that would make me happy. Look, at the end of the day, it's like when you're in that mindset, and you're working more with, you're being more intentional, you're more conscious, you're more present, you're more self-connected, and you are leading yourself with vision. Call it magic, call it science, call it whatever you want. It just feels good. It feels better to be living that. So even if that's where you rest on, like, that to me is reason enough alone to channel yourself from those, that energy and that mindset. Everything, I think, everything that I talk about, I'm never ever, and I'm very clear on this, I'm never ever saying that, oh, think like this, look like this, and do it this way, and then, everything is easier. Nope, not saying that at all. What I'm saying is that how you face battles, because battles are going to be there no matter what, is different. I have a whole, like, I talk about this frequently. I feel like you've heard this before, Cynthia, but for your community, we hear a lot about, I'm worthy, I guess I deserve this thing or that experience or that partner and all that. And I'm like, cool, I agree. But do you feel worthy of the battle that you're going to have to face on the way there? Because I don't care if it's just the inner critic battle, if there's a physical battle, if there's a financial battle, all of the above, you're facing something, and that's just called life. So do you feel worthy of that battle? Because when you step into, and this is like, you want to go back to talking about being a warrior. I feel like in a past life I must have been a samurai or something, because I'm honored by my challenges. I'm like, oh, it's a different mindset. You go into the battle not feeling like, woe is me. And listen, I'm all compassion, I'm empathetic, for my own self in my life when shit gets hard, and it is all the time, because I'm a path creator, I'm an entrepreneur. It's like, damn girl, I love you, this is hard, but you got it. And you know what, you're so the greater the battle, the greater the victory. And I really do believe that I'm worthy of those victories, but it's a package deal. So when we start to really accept and really pivot the mind to go, oh, wait a second, it's not just, oh, I have challenges, oh, there's battles, oh, there's fights, but it's like, wait, no, I'm worth this. I'm worthy of being in the arena. Think of yourself as a gladiator, as a samurai, whatever. I'm worthy of this fight. Obviously, driving yourself with the intention and the belief that you're there to win it too. But do you know what I'm saying? It's a package deal. You got to honor both.
Yeah, I love the Seek the Fight shirt because it's just such a badass saying. Like, just love it. So if anyone doesn't have a Seek the Fight shirt yet, please go to Roxy's website and get one, because it's just awesome, and I get the most compliments on it. But when I think that this is a really important lesson to seek the fight, because if you're not challenged, you're not growing, in my
Yeah, I
opinion.
agree.
So in whichever area, and you can, I think you can rotate your focus in your different areas. If you, I don't know, you may have a different, maybe you can do it all at the same time, but I tend to rotate my focus in different areas of my life. So I'll rotate, um, sorry, I have like the sun still on me. I'll rotate towards my family and enriching that. And then I'll rotate, of course, my family is always first, but then I'll rotate towards training and how can I enrich that? Like sometimes I just make the rounds, and that might be throughout my day or it might be throughout my month. It just varies, I guess. But I feel like there is not growth without that challenge. And so when you're on that highway and you're not cutting your own path through the jungle, um, it might be easier, like you said, in a way, but it turns out to be harder in the end, because you ultimately, I don't see that as the path to happiness from my experience seeing others. They're not truly happy in that path. Um, and so eventually, and so people seem to be much happier carving their own way, and seeking that challenge that comes with it, because they grow
Yeah.
from it and they are empowered by it. So yes, I do really, I think that's a great
It's real
lesson, is to
self-love.
seek that challenge, because you could, like, again, if you're sitting there like, I have to use my college degree because that's what my parents expect from me, like, oh, that is going to be easier not to upset your parents if you think that's what, and it's going to be easier not to worry about money maybe because as much because you have that job. But what price are you paying in 5 years,
I love that.
right?
Absolutely. Yeah. I often say, be prepared when you're choosing to be loyal. And I'm very intentional about the words. When you choose to be loyal to your most authentic self, just know, whether you do or whether you don't, there's pain and discomfort on either side. But the more that you choose yourself and you can stand up to the discomfort and or pain from, choosing yourself in those moments, the more empowered you become. And this is where I talk about self-love. Self-love for me is, it's not just this, the self-care pieces. For sure, that is self-love. It's actions that stem from self-love. Self-love is saying I'm worth the battle and the victory. I choose myself, my authentic self. 24/7, 365, no matter what, I'm devoted and loyal. And I'm going to see this version of myself through my life. I'm going to do the things that I don't feel like doing. I'm going to do the things that I'm afraid to do. I'm going to do it because I know that what's on the other end of these battles, these challenges, is everything that I want to experience in my life. But I know I got to go through this part to get to that. That for me is true self-love. And I'm going to say, one thing that I love, and I was immediately attracted to you for which, created this sisterhood between us, is you're the real thing. You walk the talk. You're not just a health expert. You're holistic. You understand everything that makes, like, in my community this month, and I'm so excited to have you on, but like, we're focused on vitality. And to me, you are the emblem of it, because you really do radiate not just metabolic health and the gold medals, but it's an attitude, it's an energy, it's everything that we're talking about. And to me, it's self-love is not something that you it's not just something that you feel, but it's actually visible. You can see a person who truly has love for themselves, and it's not in their fucking makeup, even though I love makeup and I love your pink lips.
Hey, thank you.
Yeah.
You can put all the makeup on in the world, but if you can see the spirit underneath somebody and it's gray, like you can,
Yeah.
like I can tell when people don't have enough glycine, like because of whatever gut absorption problems, like ends up going down like metabolically the whole rabbit hole. But they come to me gray, and I immediately know how to fix them because they're gray. And then sometimes their depression and their lack of self-love is coming from this metabolic reason. And if someone were to ask me, well, what's the number one supplement that you would give to someone who's stuck in a rut, I always say omega-3s, fish oil, but high dosages. Like I'm
Yeah.
talking like 15 grams to 25 grams a day sometimes. And that seems to actually jolt, whether it be an inflammation or a gut bacteria problem, it has so much effect on so many mechanisms.
Yeah.
And it's just cycled for a short period of time. This is not like a long time thing to take such a high dose. But that fish oil just seems to knock people out of their rut and out of their depression, and it turns on their brain. It turns on all those mechanisms that might be one of the causes of why they're stuck. It helps them burn body fat, like the whole thing. But I see that you can see it in people's eyes. There's actually Matthew Walker talks about, he's the sleep expert. He talks about how one night of bad sleep causes people to not like your face. Like if I didn't sleep well last night, people like my face less. They can see it.
That's amazing.
Wild. Yeah, there's a study.
I need to listen to that episode or whatever.
Still have the sun dappling on me, but my umbrella got blown
honestly,
by the earlier.
Honestly, I'm telling you the truth. I think it's beautiful. No, it's not fine. It's actually beautiful.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
The people will like your face less after not sleeping well. So I think that's really interesting that we have these intuitive mechanisms, which will lead me to my intuition topic next. But these intuition mechanisms just pre-programmed in our ancestral selves to recognize, like, hey, this person didn't sleep well. They might be a little unstable, so I'm going to keep my distance a bit. We just have it pre-programmed. Okay, so I wanted to talk about intuition because I want to definitely give people, I think we're already giving them really great prompts of actionable things they can do. Journaling, thinking about their future selves and what they look like, making decisions on who you want to be, and not really thinking that you have to commit to them. Like, just try it out, right? If you like wearing purple every day and that's who you feel like you want to be, then wear purple every day. You know what I'm saying? Like for a year or whatever it is. And then one day you might decide that you don't want to do that anymore. It's okay. So just finding in touch with who you are. And then if you have somebody that is not supporting that, then setting the boundaries. We can get to this after intuition. Maybe let's get to boundaries after intuition. Setting the boundary so that you are allowed, or you're not allowed, you are allowing yourself to wear purple every day, be your authentic self, whatever it is. Okay, and that leads to self-love because you're loving who you are when you look in the mirror. Okay, so those are actionable things. One more actionable thing I would say towards that, and we can get to this too after intuition and after the next thing, which we just said, but because there's so much to talk about. But one more thing that I did suggest in my book too is giving back to your community. So Buddhists would always say they're actually selfish because why are they selfish? Because they know how good it feels to give to other people. That actually makes them selfish because they know they're just doing it because they know it makes them feel good, right? So joke and say, but beyond making it feel good, I feel like giving this selfless energy into your community, whatever community that may be. I choose for it to be my local Lahaina community. Giving something that you don't expect anything for. You don't want recognition. You don't want money. You don't want anything except to give positive energy, whatever that may be. So my latest thing is using my artistic talents to create murals in my community. I don't want money for them. If they want to give me money for paint, I now accept that, but I don't ask for it. I don't want recognition. The newspapers begged me to do a story. I said, well, I don't want recognition, but if it helps other people find joy, then okay. If it helps volunteers come together, I'm bringing my community together by having all these volunteers come and help and mentoring special needs kids. That just fell into my lap. I accepted that from the universe as what I kind of operate on this intuition, which we'll get to in a second. The universe said, this is what you need to do. It just kept pushing me towards, I was at the paint store and I ran into the special needs teacher. What are you doing here, Coach Cynthia? That's how he knows me, as the track coach. Oh, well, I paint murals. I never knew that about you. Well, not a lot of people do. and I'm starting this mural project for the community. Oh, well, I have special needs kids that love to paint murals. Could you mentor them and teach them?
So
Absolutely. And now I get texts from like the mom. This one girl comes with me. She's autistic. She comes with me to every mural. And her mom said, I prayed and prayed and prayed for something great to happen to her. And you are the answer to my prayers. Like that feeling
yeah,
is better than any money, any kind of cash, any kind of prize. I'm sorry. It's better. It's
great.
just better.
Yeah,
And so then that gives me type of self-confidence that I'm loved by my community and I love my community. Like that love is very strong.
yeah,
And so it's so strong that if someone else were to try to attack me and say, oh, well, Cynthia, you're just, you you speak too loud on women's issues, or you're too much, or you're too full of yourself, or
mhm.
whatever they want to tell
Yeah,
me. I love the too full of
I
myself
know.
because that means
I,
I'm doing it right.
I
I'm doing it
love what
right.
you wrote about that, though.
Yeah,
It's so
yeah.
perfect. Yeah,
I mean, everybody should be full of themselves. What?
right?
So, like,
Don't
why
be
aren't
half of
you?
yourself. Be full of yourself.
Yeah, be full of yourself. But when you have that like I know who I am, and I know that I give back to my community. I know that I give love to my children. I know that I'm the best spouse that I can possibly be. Like I try to be the best spouse. Like I know. And so someone who doesn't know me might not know any of that about me. They just see one piece of my life on social media or something like that. And so if they make a comment or whatever, like it doesn't bother me because I have that armor. That love is like an armor on top of me.
Yeah,
So that's one key to helping yourself have self-love. Like
absolutely.
don't ever put value in the opinions of others because you. Put value in the opinion of yourself.
Yeah,
Like that is one of the top things that I would say.
yeah,
And I tell my daughter this all the time, and teenagers especially need to hear it. Teenage girls especially need to hear it because they see my daughter tells me that the eating disorder community is still really strong on social media, like pushing eating disorders and stuff for young girls to look like waifs, which I think is ridiculous. Thought we were out of that heroin chic in the 70s. It's still hanging
yeah.
around.
Strong is
Right? So
beautiful now. It's like,
yeah,
it's amazing.
strong is where it's at, right?
Yeah,
So okay, so one of the ways that I found myself painting for my community is that I trusted my intuition. Like my intuition said, okay, it's time to just I felt this drive to go there and do that. And I think that actually is very science based. And I read this book called The Gift of Fear. And I think it's from like 10 or even maybe even 15 years ago.
okay.
And it's about, it's this gentleman who was like, I think he was in some sort of secret service or that, plus he investigated when women were attacked,
Okay.
assaulted.
Yeah,
And so he then became passionate about helping women protect themselves. And I think it's awesome that you know jujitsu, and that's actually on my list of what I want to become. The girl I want to become
I
is
love it.
to learn a few moves because I'm actually the only one in my family now who doesn't know
Oh,
jujitsu.
really? Well, it's just a matter of time then.
And all my kids can put me in like rear naked chokes. So is that the term? I don't even know. So
I
like
love
they
it.
can they can all take me down. My daughter now is wrestling. Oh my God, I can't even, like she literally did not let me get up from the bed for 10 minutes the other day. She was teasing me, and she's big. She's almost 6 feet tall and she's strong as hell. And I was in bed reading or doing my work or whatever for my like afternoon siesta, and she was joking with me and she got on top of me and put me in some moves or whatever. And I was like, no, I have to go to the bathroom. And she was like, oh, you got to go to the bathroom, mom. Tickle, 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 tickle. And I was like dying. I was screaming for my other son, try to, like, come help mom. Like, it was hilarious. But
Oh my goodness.
hey, I am so proud of her that she knows how to do that, you know?
I love it.
So that leads me to this book, The Gift of Fear. Um, it's basically the bottom line of that book is to trust your intuition, especially as a female.
Mhm.
But that basically what he says is that subconsciously we collect data in our brains,
Mhm.
and that data tells us what is okay and what is not okay. It
Mhm.
tells us where to go. And he says it more of in a self-defense type of way.
Mhm.
But for instance, one of the girls who was assaulted, um, she came home with her arms full of groceries to her apartment building,
Mhm.
and the bottom door was unlocked, which it's not usually unlocked. She came in and there was a man over by the mailboxes, and he was kind of just like messing around or whatever, like, and she was like, oh, I have not seen him before. And then he was like, oh, can I help you with those? And she was like, oh, no, no, I got it. And then he started to guilt her and be like, oh, you're one of those women. Oh, you're just too independent to accept a man's help, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And so then she started to feel bad, like, oh, ooh, am I that woman? Like, oh, I don't want to be ill perceived, right? I don't want him to perceive me as that type of woman. So she said, well, I guess you can take one bag, right?
Yeah.
And so he takes one bag, and then he said, "Oh," she said, "What? Oh, like who are you here for?" And he said, "Oh, you're the neighbor across the hall." And then in her head, she was like, "Oh, I thought that neighbor was out of town, but oh, okay, they must have come back early, right?"
Yeah.
And so she gets to her apartment door, and he's helping her, and she's like, I got it from here. And he's like, oh, blah blah blah, whatever he said to her, charming, and guilted her again. And she was like, well, okay. So she puts her key in and she opens the door, and that's it.
That's
She
it.
was sexually assaulted
Yeah.
for the next 3 hours.
Yeah.
He had a gun.
Yeah.
And so then when this guy went back to analyze and investigate,
Mm-hmm.
she said to him, my intuition told me something was off. And so he breaks down, what is your intuition? Well, one, of course, the bottom door was unlocked and it wasn't usually. So
Mm-hmm.
her brain's like, that's unusual. He was a strange man she hadn't seen before. That's
Mm-hmm.
unusual. Her neighbor was out of town. That's unusual because she thought her neighbor was out of town, right? So her intuition was telling her from the beginning, this guy is no good. Something's off.
Right.
But he convinced her not to believe in her true self,
Yeah.
not to believe in her self-confidence,
Yeah.
to believe in a perception,
Mm-hmm.
and that wasn't true, and that put her in a very dangerous situation. She managed to get out by, he went into the kitchen, and she just ran naked out of the apartment and ran for help. Like, she was brave enough to do that, and that's how she was able to tell her story. So I'm saying that because it's a very strong story,
Yeah.
and that's never left me. And this man says in his book, I have to find out I forgot the author's name, I feel bad, but it's called The Gift of Fear.
Mm-hmm.
So he says there's no good reason for a man to offer to help you with groceries to your car, say in the middle of the night in a parking garage,
Yeah.
right? Like, you may be in a situation where that's the only time that you were able to go grocery shopping, you got off late from work, whatever it may be, you're in that situation. There's no good reason for him to stop and talk to you. If he were a true gentleman, he would recognize that that's not okay, and
Mm-hmm.
he would let you just go to the car with your groceries, right?
Right. Right.
And so he advises, like, if anyone is begging for money or things outside of a store, 9 times out of 10, they are just trying to get your attention,
Yeah.
right? And and also, it's a very high risk and a high percentage that um, that you're going to put yourself in a situation where you could be assaulted, or you
Yeah.
could be something, even verbally assaulted, right?
Yeah. And
And so if you want to donate, I always say, if you want to donate, hey, donate to a soup kitchen, or donate to the place that provides shelter for these people. But you're, as a female especially, and he specifies females are less powerful than men. Men can physically overtake females.
yeah.
So as a female, you need to empower yourself to trust your intuition.
Yeah.
And if somebody is talking to you and you don't need to be talking to them, to put your hand up and say no, like just like that, no, and walk away. And I've actually used that a few times, and it's really, it feels awesome, because there is no good reason for that sketchy guy, who's walking next to the store at
Yeah.
night to ask me fucking anything. He
Right.
should not fucking be talking to me. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for your situation, and I'm sorry that you're not doing well in your life, but I will gladly donate to the place that I think will give you help. But don't fucking talk to me in the middle of the night in a parking lot. Don't fucking ask me for money, especially change for $1 was yesterday. Okay.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And I'm like, I'm outside of Whole Foods and you're asking me for change for $1. You don't want change for $1. You want money. You want to talk to me. You want something, right? I stared at him so hard that when I came back from the bathroom, he got up and left when he
Yes.
saw me coming.
Well, okay.
Right? Okay. So
This is
I hope that's not like too hardcore of a story, but
no. This is
that's
my. This is what.
never left me in that you need to So part of that self-love is to trust that intuition, whether it be to create something or to protect yourself.
No,
1, 2, 3, go.
It's epic. I mean, listen, when we're talking about, some kind of physical altercation or issue with it. I mean, I am a jujitsu practitioner. Like, this is my realm, So I love that we're here. I think one thing that gets right to the core of I think what would be so valuable for your community to take in based off this story and intuition, and I'll expand, but just to go straight into the core, you have to care more about how you feel about you than other people's opinions. And this is actually how you operate from your most authentic self. This is how you're going to live that self-love. And this is actually how you're going to listen to your intuition. Because let's go back to the story. The girl, intuition, like the door's locked, strange man. Why did she allow it? Why did she allow it? She allowed it because she felt bad. She felt bad because of what? Of what this man would feel or think based off of her, and he was pushing her. So I'm not making her, he was saying, oh, you're this, you're that. And that made her start to think more about what he's thinking about her. I really want this to get into the minds, because when you stop caring, well, I'll now infuse a different path. Let's think about, my intuition says, I'll give you my real life. I moved to New York City and I didn't know. I knew a person that I met, and he's a friend to this day, but I met him like a month before. I knew nobody from Hawaii. Okay. So from Honolulu to New York City, it's a big move, right? I was in my 20s, but I listened, and I was at this place where, in my life, in my journey, where it's like I got actually a partial scholarship to FITM, the Fashion Institute in New York, in LA. But something didn't feel right about it. It was like I had to sign the loan papers. And I was actually telling my friend in New York, that the guy that I just met, I was like, I don't know, I feel so, and he works in the fashion industry, and he was like, forget FITM. And he's like, come to New York, it's Fashion Week, I'll take you to the shows, check out FIT, like, forget FITM. And I was like, done, pack my bag, never been to New York. I get to New York, and I can visually remember this moment, and I will for the rest of my life, because it was that, impactful on me. I looked around and I felt and I was like, I gotta live here. I have to move to New York. I have chills right now. And I would be there for whatever, a week or 10 days. And, and it just kept it actually fortified that feeling, that knowing. And I remember getting on the plane, and again, it's all in my journal. I have record of all of this, which is so amazing. I said, I'm moving to New York City in 1 month. And I'm going to tell you right now, and I'm not saying this is like the way for everybody. This is just, I'm very maverick about my life. And that's, and trust me, it's been very challenging, but I didn't really have a big plan. I didn't have all the security. I just knew I had to live there. So 1 month later, it's crazy to the day because it's in my journal, I moved to New York City. And, there are many moments I can share, that are like this, and it's funny because when people hear stories like this, I remember thinking this when people in my 30s, when I was in my 30s and people would hear these stories, they'd be like, oh my God, you're so brave. You're so brave. And I always remember going and I was in my 20s when all this was happening. I was like, even thinking back, I was like, was I really brave? I'm like, what I did do. And then in hindsight, as I would, live longer, I'm like, well, I guess it was pretty brave. But what I really give credit to wasn't the courage, albeit for sure it was, happening. I was, operating with courage. But what I did is I always listened. I listened here, inside here. Do you think my family, I mean, my family is everything. We are we're a clan, but and very supportive, but also didn't always get what I was doing. And there would be friction moments in that. And that's really hard, especially when you're so tight with your family. But I knew what I was doing. Whether it worked out or not, I knew what I was always going for. And the point that I'm making here is that whether it's a life potential, threatening situation, or, moving to a city, or starting an art project, or whatever it is. You have to care more about what you feel about you to then operate from that direction, that North Star in you that's saying, go this way, do that thing, don't answer answer the phone, whatever it is, you know? But that's like, just because I feel like there's so many ways you can go into this conversation, like tease it out. It's such a big thing, but really, like, I think in layers, and I like to get to the roots, like root cause medicine. Like, what's at the core of what really makes you operate from that? You have to care more about what you think than anybody else thinks. You know, listen, I see it, just to go back to like the physical thing. I'm in the gym. I grew up in the gym. It's a very comfortable place for me. And I know when I walk in the gym, you know, I'm not really social. I'm not antisocial, but I'm in it. Like, I'm training. I'm not working out. And there's a difference. And so I know, like, as a woman, and I have shoulders, like, there's an energy that comes off of me. And it's not, I don't try, it's just there. But I'm also very much, I'm like comfortable in myself, and I'm certainly comfortable in the environment. You know, I have three brothers. Again, I grew up lifting weights when I started when I was 8 years old. But I do see women, and it's like, and listen, I coach, I empower. Like, this is, women are my, like, I love women, you know? I'm like, and I see how there's like the body language in the gym, and it's like, ugh. Not everybody, like, especially now. So I'm not trying to, you know, but
Yeah, I totally
you know
see
what
that.
I'm
And
talking about.
the high school athletic trainer up at the high school I coach at told me a few years ago that teenage girls come in with problems because they start to grow breasts and they want to cover them, and they start doing this. And so he
Yeah,
sees actual physical, like, problems with their alignment, and how their sports are, like, they're getting injured in sports because their whole alignment is off from them trying to cover their growing breasts, which I thought was
yeah.
really interesting. So
Well,
you're right. You can absolutely tell by the way someone moves, um, everything about them.
the body
And
language. It's
yeah,
the
and I think,
energy.
again, your brain, that's another piece of data your brain downloads. So as I came around that corner yesterday, out of the bathroom, back towards that guy, not avoiding his stare, I was actually looking at him, like,
Exactly.
I was looking at him kind of up and down, like taking it all in.
Yep.
And he just was not, he was like, this chick is not someone I want to tangle with
It's
today.
not going to
You
be
know,
easy. And that's so
it's not
important.
right.
And I love that you say that, Cynthia, because I know in my life as a woman, I'm 43, and like, I've had, and it's like, no, 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 no. So this is really important, and it bridges to boundaries. Boundaries are a frequency that's
Yeah,
felt.
I'm glad we're getting to that. Let's talk about boundaries, because
Well,
this is
yeah, like
like
you
a
gotta.
key to self-love and self-confidence.
Well, it's everything, because it's like, look, if you don't feel real love for yourself, you're gonna have weak boundaries. You don't have a connection with boundaries, right? When you're in that parking lot and you're like staring up at it, and you're giving that frequency of, you don't want any of this. That's saying, without even saying, but there's a place sometimes where you do have to say things, but you let him know energetically that you don't want to cross this line. You know, that's one boundary. I want to talk about a boundary that I think is really important and specific to, like, you know, in your career and your community. I want to talk about food boundaries. Like, this is important. In my journey in, you know, in optimizing my health, and really, you know, because I was injured when I was a teenager. I had 3 back-to-back knee surgeries. I gained all this weight. I was on the American diet. You know, I've been on a long journey, and I'm just kind of swifting through it right now to get to this point here. When I started to, you know, become a real alchemist in the kitchen, and like play scientifically with, you know, like, what does my body need? What do I need to get rid of? What do I need to, and, you know, so, okay, I don't want gluten. I don't want the vegetable oil. I want, you know, and that started to come into my life. Um, People have things to fucking say about that. You know, they have opinions. Oh,
Like,
you're so
why are you
difficult.
eating steak for
Oh,
breakfast?
you're
I don't.
California gluten.
Yeah,
Oh, like, this is, now it's like your persona. Oh, but you don't eat that. And oh, but, and I'm telling you, I face so much of that. Oh, it's Roxy. She eats this way. Oh, and here's the thing, most people, I'm not putting anybody down, I have empathy, can't stand up to that heat. I did. I did, until the point where it's like, now it's like, people come to me and ask me like, what do I eat? You know what I mean? Because like, but that's a boundary that I put up to people like, yeah, okay, this is who I am, like whatever. And
I love that you put it that way, because I do try to tell people that they shouldn't say they're on a diet or anything like that whenever they change their nutrition. They should say, this, I don't eat that, or this is like how I eat or whatever. But that you
yeah,
just say, oh, I don't eat gluten,
yeah,
and they can be like, oh, you're gluten free, or blah blah blah, or are you celiac? Like, no, you don't have to give any explanation. You just
no,
say, I don't eat that,
I don't eat
and you don't
that.
have to say it in a condescending way or an I'm
No,
holier than thou way or anything like that. It's a way that you are, again, you're right, setting your boundary for yourself. No, I don't eat that.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, if you feel inclined, like, of course, throughout my, life, people, when I feel like there's a real curiosity, somebody wants to learn something, or sure, then I open up and I share. But, in it's exactly what you said. In those moments where that wasn't the case, it's like, no, I don't eat this, or, like, I know what's best for me. Again, it all comes back to self connection, right? I know what makes me feel my best. And when I feel my best, not only is that the win itself, but then I can perform my best. And I'm just not interested in anything that's going to take me away from that feeling and then that performance. So, obviously, boundaries is it's a core activation in Queendom. So there's a whole month that we focus on it because, listen, boundaries are what you're saying yes and what you're saying no to. And to keep it simple and to the point, whatever you're saying yes or no to is actually shaping your entire life. End of story.
That's the truth. That's the truth. And also, what you want to say yes and no to, because you do your journaling and you've come to find what you want, right? So you
Yeah.
know that you want to feel great
Yeah.
and you want to have optimal performance.
Yes.
Unfortunately, some people don't know that they want that. They'll say like, "Oh yeah, I don't know how you could be a world champion, in your 40s running faster than college. I don't know how you can do that." Well, I had to at first decide that I wanted to do that.
Yeah.
And I could do that. One, I want to be a world champion. Two, I can be a world champion.
Yeah.
Three, what are the steps to get me there?
Yeah.
Right? And then you start to really interview yourself. And I love I get, you know what? You've inspired me to, I haven't been doing my morning thing. I'm going to do my morning thing. I'm going to share it with you by the time we
I'm
talk.
sending you the journal.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So yeah, like it's that process. So like if people are curious where to start, like that's where you start is,
Yeah.
make again, don't put so much pressure on yourself, like that you have to decide and commit forever that you want that goal, but at least make some sort of a goal that's going to make you feel happy and good, right?
Yes.
And that generally spreads love and joy and happiness, because Roxy, when you're at your best and you're performing optimally, we all benefit
I,
because you are on your game. You are bringing, I recently described you to somebody as, she's always 110%. Like she's like, her energy is like, bam, there, good, like, yes, positive, let's go, let's fucking go, let's go, we're going. You know what I mean? Like that's every time I talk to you on the phone, it's the same way. And I'm sure you have your down times where you meditate and you have that yin and yang.
yes.
However, what I'm saying is that you're able to tap into that consistently, and we all benefit from it. My daughter is now shaped into a better teenage girl because you have inspired her. Like I'm the mom; she doesn't listen to me. So
Oh, no, you're
I'm just
not,
kidding.
yeah, you're not just
She
a
pays
mom. Remember the
attention. She
just?
just yeah, she pays attention, but she doesn't like to admit it. But
Yeah.
yeah, but she will be happy to admit that she listens to Roxy and everything Roxy
Oh,
says. So, but what I'm saying is, when we are our true, authentic selves, and
yeah.
when we do create, I think that might have been the other. Totally forgot what the thing was after intuition, but between intuition and boundaries.
Boundaries.
But yeah, was it boundaries? Okay.
Yeah.
And so when we do create, and I think we talked about this, that one famous writer, I forgot who it was, maybe Walt Whitman or somebody, said creation is the closest you can be to God. Whatever
Mhm.
you believe God is,
Yeah.
whatever you believe created creation, like
Right.
when you take something and you make something out of it, whatever shape or form that is. It could be music, art, it could be anything, literally anything, not even the traditional arts. It can be
It could be an
um,
experience.
accounting. I don't know. You know what I mean?
Maybe
Like
an
it can be,
experience.
you
An
can express
experience.
yourself, right. You can
Yes.
express yourself however you want. And when you create something, you are giving to the world
Yeah.
because you're making something from nothing. You're making something from chaos. You're giving back to the world. And that creates good energy for you. It comes all the way back around. And that helps you with your self confidence and your self love. So I think that, when you're coming from your true authentic self, like you said, and creating, like those are the keys for sure.
I
And
know.
but one more thing about your story about New York.
Yeah.
Um, Metabolically, I always encourage people to increase their dopamine, right? And part of
Mhm.
that is by eating red meat for breakfast.
Yeah.
So, from a scientific point of view, you seem very dopamine dominant. Have you ever taken the Braverman test? Did I have you take that?
I don't think
The
you.
neuro,
No,
the
I took some
neurotransmitter
other
test?
test, and I told you
Oh
it
yeah.
say the same, but I haven't taken
Yeah.
that one. I want to.
Yes.
Yeah.
So anyone that wants to take it, it's you can just look up Eric Braverman. It's the Braverman test, and you can only take it once because once you know the questions, you can't. You have to
Yeah.
answer honestly all the questions, and it tells you what neurotransmitter you're dominant in and what you're deficient in.
Mm.
And we use that as strength coaches to actually tailor strength coach workouts or training around the athlete. So if I have an acetylcholine dominant athlete, they're a workhorse and
Yeah.
they will grind out that same workout and get better and better at that. That's how they thrive. However, I'm dopamine dominant. One of my other Olympians, dopamine dominant. I could call it right from the beginning because of the personality. They need the challenge. They need the change. They need to change up their workouts all the time because they need the new next challenge, right?
Yeah.
So to me, your trip to New York and you being like, yep, I want this challenge, that's a dopamine dominance. And I believe that even if you're not dopamine dominant, by sparking that neurotransmitter, especially at the beginning of your day, you're
Yeah.
going to be able to tackle more with more energy and you're going to be able to be that authentic self that you're seeking because what? You're going to take the risk. And dopamine is associated with risk taking. And I'm sorry, but it's true that that saying, fortune favors the bold,
Yep.
is true
Yeah.
because down to the like the ancestral level, if you are a deer and you
Mhm.
need to get a drink of water, you
Mhm.
have to go to the stream.
Mhm.
But the stream is out of the woods and you might get hunted.
Right.
But you need to take that risk because if you don't go to the stream, you're not going to get water and you're going to die. So that's
Exactly.
like a very basic analogy.
It's a
But
good
if
one.
you don't go and you don't take that risk of living your life, like you're going to not maybe physically die, but you're going to, I feel like creatively maybe die. So that's just my two
I
cents.
love it.
Yeah, I just really love encouraging people to spark that dopamine dominance, no matter what your neurotransmitter profile is. But I'm also
Love all
dopamine
that.
dominant. So if I was too scared to try to be a world champion, I wouldn't be one because I wouldn't have taken that risk and I wouldn't have made the plan and I wouldn't have gone to the top people in the world to learn from so that I could achieve that. And if I didn't do that, then I wouldn't be able to help all these other people get gold medals and live their best life. So what you invest in yourself
Yeah.
actually gives back to everyone because if you're operating from your true authentic self-love, self-confident self,
Yeah.
then everyone benefits, right?
Like literally music to my heart because I often say we're not just humans. I mean, that's like one way to look at us, and it's obviously the truth. But I actually zoom out more and go, we are an experience. You're an experience. I'm an experience. We're giving your community an experience. They are an experience. So when you think about that, you're like, wait a second, what kind of experience am I? Because everything affects everything in this symbiotic relationship of life, right? So when I show up as my most high frequency, authentic, optimal self, well, that experience is giving you, the world, an energy that, hopefully, and it all comes out to also where, like, if there's a person on the other side, like, where are you to receive that? Um, to feel good, to get something out of it, right? So when you said in the very beginning, which I so appreciate, when you say like your words you can say like one thing and it like has like there's like a ripple effect or an impact. Well, for me to be able to download the wisdom, the words, all of that, I have to have a lot. I have to feel really good. I have to be, and this goes back into like metabolic health and food even. And it's, in my brand, Black Belt Beauty, it's not just high performance living. It's holistic high performance living because everything is affecting that performance, right? When you switch from eating toxic foods and I'm just making one example, but it's important to where I just was, and you start eating, whole foods, clean foods, non-toxic foods, well, you're going to feel more clear inside. You're going to, it's not just like waist size and I feel better. No, but like you're going to listen, you're going to be able to hear your intuition more. You're going to be more connected. And then that's going to allow you to show up in a different way to be a whole different experience. So what you say to me especially has so much weight and value because it's not this is very important, Cynthia. Sometimes, especially in the beginning or certain parts of people's health optimization journeys, or even not just health, but like maybe something they're going for in their career, what have you, there could be guilt. I like maybe if you're a mom, I'm not being fully there to, like I'm focusing so much on myself or et cetera, right? But the reality is that, you just turn it to you as a perfect example. You're able to be such a force of like love, of impact, of, empowerment, not just to your immediate, like your family, your circle, but to your community, to your friends, to everybody. And you're able to be that because of this connection that you have with yourself, this, just everything that we're talking about, like you investing in all the ways that make Cynthia feel her best, to be the most optimized, to feel fulfilled. And that's a frequency. That's what you're putting out in the world. And I can tell you and your community, they don't know me, but you're one of my dearest friends. If shit goes down, I'm calling you. When I talk to you, it's like, it's the best. I train and you're with me. That's an energy thing, and it's so, again, it goes back to like, you want to have relationships like this, to whoever's listening, because I really think that it's valuable to have relationships like our friendship. Well, it comes down to who you are and what you're doing to create this who you are-ness, this experience that is you.
Yes, that's perfect. And you're likewise with me when I need to be strong to create boundaries or feel confident or something like that. I think about your words, so and you're with me too. So it's vice versa. And I do get love. I'm sure you get the same types of messages, but I love getting the messages where they're like, "Thank you. I started sprinting. I've never felt better," or
Yeah.
"Thank you. I changed just this one thing. I've never felt better." And so that means more to me than, again, like any kind of money, tangible
Yeah.
money, or anything like that. So let's wrap up with just one more maybe tip on boundaries. So
Yeah.
we all have known people, and we are sometimes these people ourselves, but we all have known people who are stuck in a relationship, whether it be a friendship or a partnership or something like this, where they feel like it's just going to be too hard to break up with that person. Let's take a partnership, say.
Yeah.
And I actually called you earlier this year about a friendship that was toxic, and I just kept giving the benefit of the doubt, and I kept saying like, oh, it's just, we have similar friend groups, like it's going to be hard to get rid of this friendship even though it's not serving me, it's ridiculous, and anyway, and you were like, stop giving this any more energy, done, right? And so that
Yeah.
really helped me a lot because of course I knew this, but I kept feeling sorry for this person, and I was letting myself be compromised by them taking advantage of me because I felt sorry for them, right? Okay, but
Yep.
let's go to like a relationship. So you're in a relationship, and the other person is continuously disrespecting you, and maybe you like this. Maybe you have a family or something. You don't want to ever be divorced. They don't want to go to counseling. Like, I mean, I hear this all the time where it seems like it's going to be harder to
Yeah.
start again. Like sometimes I remember one of my family members, I won't say who, but a long time ago said, well, he's verbally abusive, but it's just going to be too hard to start dating again. Like,
Yeah.
so what kind
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
advice or tips would you give for, you know, setting those types of
Yeah.
boundaries? Like
Some
I
of
always say, like you just number one, make sure you're communicating what you want. Like if you don't want to be talked to that way, then make sure you're actually saying like, don't talk to me that way. Because I think sometimes too, women especially will think that they've said that, or they'll just inherently be like,
Mhm.
oh, I don't want that to happen, but they don't actually voice that communication, right? So make sure you're actually
Yeah.
asking your partner for what you want and don't want. But other than that, I always just say like, but you have to be willing to enforce that boundary. So what are you going to do to enforce that boundary?
Yeah. Yeah. And obviously, there's so many different circumstances that, would, I guess, call on different actions, but to try and just keep it simple to get a general concept out, so let's assume that there is, communication, healthy communication happening, um, yet still, there's some kind of deficit, there's some kind of disconnect, like the partner is coming up short, the partner is just not, honoring the needs of the individual who is right. Well, I mean, listen, again, because there's so many different ways to go about this, but I think the most important thing that I can offer is, we accept the love that we feel we deserve. That's just the simple kind of takeaway. If you feel that what you're getting is what you're worthy of and what you deserve, well, you're gonna keep getting that. And for that example of like, oh, it's too difficult to date. Well, you're being loyal to some limiting belief. Okay, fine. But here's the thing: if you get the opportunity to be at the end of your life and look back, and this is really important. I think about death a lot, and not in some morbid way. It's just part of life, right? And it keeps me very present in my life on a day-to-day basis. It's not a dress rehearsal. Go for it, girl. But if you get that opportunity to look back at your life and you're in circumstances like the one that we're, talking about right now, how are you going to feel about staying in a situation like that wasn't honoring you, that wasn't respecting you, that ultimately was like actually not healthy for you? How are you going to feel? Try and look from that perspective. And listen, again, like being your authentic self, like I said, be ready. There's pain on either side. There's pain in staying in that situation, and there's pain in not staying in that situation. But again, if you have the opportunity, and it's a blessing if you do, that you can look back, what are you going to feel more proud of? What are you going to appreciate more? What decision? The pain. Choose the pain. I chose the pain of being with my authentic self, and that meant that, I told my partner, hey, we need a timeout, we actually need to go to counseling, or hey, maybe we got to go separate ways, whatever. That's what I'm saying. Every circumstance will be different, but the point is not about what route you take, it's about what decision you make about who you are and what you're here to experience, what you're worthy of. And that, we're talking about romantic partnership, but that could be a friendship, that could be a boss, that could be anything. It all comes down to what you believe to be true about you and what you are worth experiencing in your life. And if you're operating out of that, well, then you're operating out of integrity. And if you create excuses and limiting beliefs, we'll own that. Just say, I'm owning this limiting belief. Because the truth is, you don't know until you go, right? And to go, you got to take chances, like you said, fortune favors the bold. And, when we decide to go for it, whatever it is, we're deciding that we're worth it. So again, it all comes back to, you accept the love that you believe you deserve, and that lives in this self-worth self-love. I mean, what a perfect like full
I
circle here.
I
Like
totally agree. This is a
self-love.
perfect full circle. We've covered so much today, and I love talking to you because we can just go everywhere and talk about
I love
everything.
talking to you.
And I can't wait to see you.
Ditto.
Hopefully, sometime soon we'll figure it out. So I just want to say thank you so
We're
much.
gonna start.
I mean, this like finishing on the self worth is perfect because even for athletes who are setting goals for their personal bests or for records or whatever they might be, maybe they just want to get through season and run their best time or something like that. Like even for athletes, you have to believe that you are worthy to do that, right? And you have to be journaling maybe, or at least writing down your goals and saying that this is the person I'm going to be. So I think that's perfect. I think it's all
Yes.
tied in, and I love it. And let's keep that magic going. So I just want to say thank you so much for
Yes.
being my guest today, and I
I love
love you
you. Thank you for
too.
having me. It's an honor. It's an honor to be here with your community. It's an honor to be one of your dearest friends who's someone who's so on your team and so in your corner. Like, I've got your back to the end, sister, and beyond.
That's
So,
great.
like, we're just
Likewise,
beginning.
I can't wait to see all of the powerful things we do together over the next years to come.
Me
So
too.
go us. Yeah,
Me
warriors.
too.
And we're inviting everybody else to join us with your energy too.
Exactly. I
Okay.
love
Well,
you. Thank you
I'm
so
going
much.
to sign off
Okay.
here. Aloha and thank you. Mahalo again. And I'll talk to you soon.